Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Industry Night with me, Nycci Nellis, the show that takes you on a deep dive of the happenings in and around the hospitality community. So, if you're new here, hi, thanks so much for joining us. And if you're old here, well, just tune in for a couple seconds while I tell people why they should be here. So, I've been covering the DC food, wine, and hospitality scene for the last 20 years. Everything you need to know about DC is going on in the list, areyouonit.com, the online e-zine that tells you absolutely everything that's happening. Events, restaurant openings, promotions, you name it, it's all in there and it's all free. All you have to do is check it out and you'll know exactly what's going on. Of course, you follow me at NYCCI, Nellis, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Threads, and of course, YouTube, because this show, Industry Night, is on YouTube. Every Sunday, tune in to David and I, that's my husband. We do Foodie and the Beast, the only food and wine variety show here in the DC market. We've been on air for just 15 years now. And lastly, here we are at Industry Night. So, as you can see, we are at the gorgeous Point down at Buzzards Point. Greg Caston and his team have generously hosted us for the month of November. So we've had a residency here and we've got to do all the things here. Eat terrific oysters, sit out in front of a fire pit, hang out with a terrific cocktail. One of my camera guys got some short ribs. So the food is delicious, the sights are beautiful, and if you have not yet been here, you should definitely be checking it out. Okay, so at this part of the show, I always tell you where I've been and what I've been doing. And if you follow me on Insta, you certainly know I'm out and about. But you will notice that I haven't been out and about locally. I was kind of out of the country for a week. So I took my tush to St. Martin to sun it for a week during Thanksgiving. That's our new family tradition. And it's not so bad. We go to a place that I hate to share with anybody because it's kind of a little gem and a little secret and not a lot of people know about it. And if I tell you, you're all going to want to go because it's really fabulous. So, okay, I'll tell you. Anyway, it's this little place called Grand Casse Beach Club. It's on the Crescent inside Grand Casse. Grand Casse is on the French side of St. Martin, and it's in this little town of Grand Casse. It's all French and Caribbean restaurants, and the hotel is not posh, it is not luxurious, but it is on the ocean. When you go to sleep at night, you hear the water lapping up right underneath your window. It's very special. Every day you walk into town, we personally stop at the Maison Chocolat, where we get all of our pastries like the croissants and empanadas and delicious chocolates. And then we go to the boulangerie and get our French bread. We pick up a little bit of cheese. We hang out on the beach all day. Maybe we walk back into town later. Maybe we don't. But every night we go back in town for one of the fabulous French meals. So I'm just going to tell you some of the places we went to. We always go to one of the lolos, which are the shacks. That's always like our first night deal. We go to Talk of the Town. That's where you get lobster and ribs and chicken. And it's just occurring to me that they do it on a grill, and I'm talking to people later on about barbecuing, so maybe there's a little segue there. And I told you about our warm croissants that we pick up every day. Oh, and pro tip, get the iced cappuccinos because they're like dessert. They're so yummy. Tuna all the ways at Rainbow Cafe. That is right on the beach. Loud music, amazing vibe, and incredible sushi. The gold-flecked caviar topped tartare at Pressoir is probably one of the best dishes I've had all year. Strands of pasta topped with burrata at Spiga. I know you don't expect an Italian restaurant there in the heart of Grand Casse, but there is one and it's delicious. And lastly, the Bistro Gnome is such a darling place. I mean, most of these places are family run, but the people who run it are just lovely and darling. And they do a fabulous tuna and wahoo carpaccio that is, it's just so good. And I really want to go back. So if you haven't had the opportunity to head to St. Martin, it is just a breath of lovely fresh air and lowers your blood pressure. And it's a great place to get away. Okay, so now I'm back in DC. I'm here at the Point. It's beautiful. It's not St. Martin beautiful, but it's very nice. And I want to get on to today's show. So, barbecue, BBQ, barbecue. What do you consider barbecue to be? Is it just an outdoor meal? Is it proteins roasted over wood or charcoal? High heat, low heat? What about all the styles too? You've got Texas, Central Texas, Carolina, Memphis. I mean, what does all that mean? And honestly, if you think about it, in the DC market, there hasn't been a lot of barbecue here until kind of recently. Like in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen an influx of barbecue places. But prior to that, there really wasn't a lot here if you wanted really good barbecue. So that leads me to my guests today, because they're doing really good barbecue, but their story is fascinating. So Debbie Gonzalez was on Foodie and the Beast over the summer because they are opening up a new restaurant. She came in to tell us all about it. But that's where I started hearing more about her story. And I was like, oh, where's your husband? She's like, oh, I left him at home. So I was like, well, I want to get both of you on the show. So Fernando Gonzalez, who is also the pit master and a former civil engineer, you guys decided to get in barbecue, but that is not where you started. You started in El Salvador, you met as teenagers, and you decided one day to build a smoker. That's about where I left off. So, hi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me today. So I'd love to know a little bit about your growing up in El Salvador and how, I know your family was in the restaurant industry, but I want to get a better idea of what that means. What was growing up in El Salvador like for you?
Okay. Thank you so much for having us. I'm very excited. We don't have to go back to El Salvador in the 80s. El Salvador in the 80s was all about the Civil War. That's when we were both born.
Okay.
We were born during the war, and we were both raised as children of the war, as many Salvadorians that now live in the United States can relate to. And my family had, or has, a restaurant. It's called Típicos Margot, and it's all about Salvadorian food. My grandma, she established this in a market in 1962. And she was a remarkable woman in the sense that she only went to second grade. That's grade school, second grade.
Right.
And she built this restaurant chain, let's call it, from the ground up.
How many spaces?
Right now we have 13.
Wow.
My family has 13. But she knew nothing except she had an innate talent for food.
Okay.
And my aunt, she had 6 children, so she had a lot to work for.
Sure.
And my aunts and my uncles, they all grew up in the worst part of the war in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And then all my cousins came in, and it is a close-knit family. And we all grew up in the restaurant. And by that, I mean, when we finished school, my parents would drop me off at the restaurant. I would wait until they finished whatever they had to do, and then we go back home. So there was this little table that my cousins and I used to call the VIP table. We would all do our homework.
Okay.
That was the VIP table. And during the weekends, my weekends were doing shifts at the restaurant. During the summers, my dad would send me with my aunt so that I could learn how to cook.
Okay.
I mean, he had high hopes that I would really work in the restaurant in the future.
So let's talk about what the restaurants serve. What kind of food?
Exclusively Salvadorian food. Pupusas, tamales, nuegados, everything. El Salvador, even though it's a small country, it's got its regions.
Sure.
So my grandmother was from the West. We are all from the West. And
Are you from the West?
I'm from the opposite side of the country.
You are. Okay.
so
Hold on one second. Can you hear him? He's okay? You can hear him well? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. Sorry, just want to make sure your sound is good. Go ahead.
So we are from the West, and my grandmother started researching about other regions and how to include those plates in her restaurant.
Oh, wow.
So she started hiring the best cooks that she knew that could teach how to make that regional dish, and taught to my aunt, who is now the head chef. So it was all she was so talented. She was actually one of the, was it 100 women?
Most influential women in Central America over the last 50 years.
In the last 50 years. That's,
She received
unfortunately, she was incredible. Unfortunately, she died suddenly in 2013, but she left such a strong sense of commitment to the restaurant industry to my entire family.
And
But
those restaurants still exist today?
they do.
Incredible.
It is awesome.
And
What a
expanded.
legacy.
They are.
And expanded.
Yes, I am very proud of my aunts and my uncles and my dad. I am very proud of where they are now because when she died so suddenly, it was all, they had to just jump in. And I've also had this incredible, strong women in my family that have taught resilience to me. And that leads us to where we were in 2017, where
Wait, I don't want you to jump ahead to
Okay.
2017 yet because I want to know when you both met.
Oh, my
You were
goodness.
on the East Coast, right? You weren't on the West Coast?
No, I was born on the opposite side of the country, but at the time we met, we were living pretty close to the
in
capital.
the same city.
Yeah,
It's called
very close
Santa
to that.
Tecla. That's
Yeah.
my town.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love my town.
Did you know her restaurant when you met her?
I was unable to afford it at that time.
Okay.
Yes,
But you did know the
but
restaurants.
I did know the brand.
You
Okay.
did know the brand.
And had you had interest? Because you're a civil engineer, right? Trained
That
civil
is correct.
engineer.
Yes.
So
yes.
So just give me a little background on your family, how you got like. I want to know like, did you grow up around food? Did you love food? Like where is your passion from?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
My father's an accountant. I'm a civil engineer.
Right.
As David mentioned, we were born and raised during the Civil War, and um, I I wouldn't say I was poor, but food was scarce, especially towards the final stage of the war, when we were unable to receive fruits, vegetables, and all the products fresh from
Sure.
the rural areas of the country. War got into the city, and we were kind of insulated.
Mm.
So you got to be creative, and you got to be in the kitchen, probably experimenting or trying something new, just because that's all that was left
Right.
for
Work
that
with
day.
what you had.
Your mom
Yes.
is really creative.
Yeah.
She
She's a
would
good
take.
cook.
She's
Yeah.
a good cook.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
would take whatever she has and make a plate out of it.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. And during the Civil War, we also had one earthquake, and coming out of the war, we had another earthquake, major earthquake in El Salvador.
Oh my goodness.
So again, you
Lots of
just got to
trauma.
be creative, yeah, for
Yes.
sure. And I understood pretty early in my life that the only way out of poverty was studying and
Mm-hmm.
pursuing an academic training, and that's what I did. But at certain point, it was pretty disappointing to be working on this project for 6 months and then delivering this amazing project,
Mm-hmm.
and that project was already given under the table to somebody else because of the high levels of corruption we also have
Oh, in El
in El
Salvador.
Salvador. So
Right.
it was pretty disappointing from all perspectives, from the violence, from the economic, from education, all those main indicators. We were lacking.
El Salvador was a tough country in the early 2000s when we met. We met was the year 2000 through mutual friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was 14, he was 18, and we were friends and started dating when I was 18
Okay.
and he was 22.
Is that the story?
That's the story
Okay,
we're
go
going to
ahead.
tell everybody.
Yes, you have that story. Go ahead. My husband's 20 years older than me. So, I mean, seriously, like, no judgment whatsoever. It's 4 years. But go ahead.
We met, and we always had this entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And
We like to be hosts
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And we got married really quickly. We got married when I was 20.
Okay.
That's the story that we're going to tell our daughter too.
Of
That I was
course.
20.
I'm here for it.
And we were always hosts in our house.
Mm-hmm.
We always had a grill, and our family would come and eat, and it was all about the hospitality. And we were known, and we're still known for our dinner parties.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want an invite. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're living in El Salvador. You, based on what I'm hearing from you, you were not happy. You felt like you put in the work.
Mhm.
You got your degree,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but you could not get ahead, right?
Exactly.
You had bigger ideas. So
Totally,
what brought you to
totally.
Austin?
So we were entrepreneuring this small shipping company, which
Mhm.
was pretty much transporting documentation
Parcels.
from parcels, pretty
Mhm.
much. sometimes smuggling food into the United States and out of the United States. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
That's all right.
Um,
It feels like it was necessary.
nostalgic food, you know.
Yes.
With all these immigration waves coming out and
There's so
Coming
many
in and out.
Salvadorians here that crave
Yeah.
things from El Salvador. So we had that. We had that shipping company in which we would bring things from El Salvador to the United States in our suitcases.
exactly.
And people would buy the pound, and then we would go back and
Isn't that
give their
amazing?
family stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like that.
But
I
I
have
mean,
my-
but
I have my-
that hasn't changed because I mean, I have like friends who, like, my girlfriend is from Antigua. When she goes to the islands, she goes with 2 suitcases
Exactly.
filled with stuff, and then
Exactly.
she comes back with 2 suitcases. You know,
Things you miss
right? Of
from
course.
other countries. And I had my full-time job, Debbie as well. But we were, we were kind of pursuing major things, as you said, and looking at the future and thinking about growing the family.
Mm-hmm.
And you will only see uncertainty on the horizon. So that's when you really start questioning yourself about your reality and what's going to happen in the next 10 years.
That was our
Okay.
mental state when
Yeah.
when he visited Austin.
Right. So, like, you
Exactly.
just, that's my point. Like, we are
Uh-huh.
setting the stage. Like, you had this moment, and then you had barbecue. Like, what? I need to know more.
So I was traveling to different cities in the United States. I would go to New York, I would go to Los Angeles, I would go to the DMV area, and I received this large car parts order coming from Dallas, being stationed in Austin, and I was picking up this large car parts shipment from Austin going to El Salvador, and I went there, and the shipment was not ready.
Okay.
I was going day in, day out. It was just not ready, or incomplete, or I ended up staying in Austin for a longer time than I was expecting.
Okay.
So I just Googled what to do in Austin. I'm here.
Eat.
And top of the list were like at least 4 or 5 barbecue tours. Take a barbecue tour.
Right.
Go to the Central Texas area and get to know all these amazing places. So that's what I did. And keep in mind, coming from El Salvador, we have direct heat grilling. We have asado. That's barbecue for us.
Right.
Barbacoa.
Right. That's like right over high heat.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Like over the coals.
Yes.
But all of a sudden, I was entering into these smokehouses with indirect cooking and these smoky environments and amazing food platters. And what really shocked me was the hospitality around barbecue. I was like sneaking into the back of the smokehouse door, and they were like, "Come on in, man! And what do you want to know? Take a picture. This
Right.
is your wood. This is your fire. This is our firebox." And I was like, "I'm coming from El Salvador, a place that is very aggressive to my human condition, and I was being welcomed into the hospitality industry in Central Texas."
I think it was
Wow.
a culture shock.
That was a call.
And
I
also,
bet.
as a civil engineer, I imagine how cool it must have been to see the whole smokehouse
Well, the
working.
workings of it.
Yeah.
So, like, when I read your bio, that's where my head went. Like, I see as a civil engineer what would be appealing to you, the processes, right? And putting
Yeah.
together a smoker and all that. But what I love hearing from you is that you were in a distressed place at your home, but this was so welcoming and
Mhm.
inviting that you were like, I need to make this my life. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's really amazing.
Yes.
So when you came home and told your wife we're changing everything, what
I-
she said?
I came back with Aaron Franklin's book, Sign, and it contained a few graphics, a few
A
images
brisket,
on
too.
how to and a brisket.
Right.
I brought a whole chilled brisket, and I was carrying this book, and
It was
I
like
said,
your Bible.
Uh-huh.
"Yeah, exactly, barbecue manifesto."
Yeah.
And I said, "We should do this here, and most likely this is what we're gonna do." And she's very supportive. She's been always supportive. She probably rejected the idea
It took
for the first 2 hours.
a few
But
hours,
then
yeah.
I hosted this dinner in which I regenerated this brisket from Franklin's Barbecue,
Uh-huh.
and that was also a change in her mentality.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I hadn't tasted brisket before in my life. I had
Sure.
no idea what he meant.
Well, just so you understand, for me with brisket, I'm Jewish. And growing up, we have brisket like 2 or 3 times a year, mostly on the Jewish holidays, okay? And it's cooked slow and low, but like in liquid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the very first time I had Texas brisket, I was like, what?
Uh-huh.
I was like, I didn't, it was like my mind
Yeah.
was blown.
Yes.
I felt like somebody had been hiding something from me for a
Exactly.
very long time.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we both felt. He had already tried it in person, but I hadn't. So he reheated that brisket and called a couple. They were our friends, and sat us on the table and said, "This is why I want to make this my life." And started cutting the brisket the way he had seen people cut it,
Mm.
and served it. I still have those pictures, and I tasted it, and it was like an out of body experience. Like,
Right.
how and why is this like? Why is it tasting like this?
Right.
And then he explained the whole smoke and the wood and all this, and I thought, this is something that El Salvador doesn't have.
Mm.
This is new.
That's when your restaurant background clicked, right?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, it clicked because then I realized I know I can do this
Sure.
because he's gonna need help, but I can do this,
Mhm.
and I know my family is going to support me because they are all about.
Right.
Food.
You already have the foundation. Like
Yes.
like you both had different foundations to grow within it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sort of curious, can we talk about the science
Yeah.
of smoking versus like asado, right? Which is just high heat and just cooking at a very high temperature, and what you learned about, like, as you built a smoker, like what were the things that you were learning? Because it sounds like you were learning as you were going.
Right, and that was another challenge for me because there was a language barrier in there. You know, all
Sure.
the barbecue information that I had access to, videos,
Oh, it was all in
podcasts,
English.
or English,
Sure.
or books were in English. So I had to figure out a way to manipulate the firebox and the smokestack, or figure out the stall. What the hell is a stall? I was like, well, what does
Right.
what's that? Um, and probably briskets were terrible at that time. I'm sure there were, but I was learning. You know, it's a
Mhm.
learning curve, and we're still learning.
Sure.
But at the same time, that's part of the journey. You know,
Mhm.
how to transform this tough piece of meat that comes from the from a cow shoulder
Right.
into something succulent. You know, I truly enjoy the process and trying it out. Also, keep in mind we don't have the high quality beef that we have access to here in the United States.
Mm.
I was pretty much traveling through the country, asking butchers or asking, dumb questions for people like, "Do you know brisket? What a brisket is?" And they're like, "Oh no,
Well,
we
but
call
that's
that."
one of the things I was
Yeah.
going to ask. Like, is that a cut that is used in El Salvador?
No,
right?
It is
Not
not.
at all. Not at all.
We went to butcher shops with pictures and videos to show the butcher how to cut the
Yeah.
brisket
Oh my
out
God,
of
that's
the cow.
crazy.
Yeah, that was completely
It took
Sometimes
it took a few
it took some
months.
time.
Yeah,
time.
it took a
And
few
then
months.
yeah, we started feeling comfortable with a few different suppliers, meat suppliers,
The meat suppliers
and
came in. They when they understood what we wanted,
Yeah.
they started importing that cut from the states because we
Yeah.
couldn't have that in El Salvador. The
Yeah.
cows are just lean.
Yeah.
They're just
very
like our
expensive
fat.
stuff. We were
Sure.
unable to find the proper wood, the proper location. I was building my own smoker, putting it in my backyard,
Mm.
having the police calling at my door. What are you doing here, man? Are you running a cafeteria? We have complaints for neighbors. What's going on? And I was like, I'm just cooking for family and friends. Would you like to try some?
Right.
And sharing barbecue chicken with the policeman's at my door. But at the same time, we were also looking at people's reaction,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when my brother-in-law, who is a genius when it comes to strategic designing for businesses,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Let's put the product out and see what happens."
Okay.
And we were probably not seasoned in our barbecue still, but we had this amazing response from mainly the U.S. expat community living in El Salvador.
Oh, I
We
bet.
happen to have the largest U.S. embassy in Central America,
Mm-hmm.
again, because of so many years of all this U.S. Salvador relationship, and they were missing barbecue.
I
Mm.
clearly remember
Yeah.
one customer direct messaging us and saying, "I am from Texas. I work at the embassy. I heard you guys are smoking. Is it real? Real smokers?
Send me pictures of
Can I
your
see
smoker.
the pictures?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, because they're serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
And
mean?
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
You do not want to call Texas style barbecue something
Right.
that it's not
Well,
Texas
so-
style.
okay, so
To a
let's
Texan.
sort of let's just go off for a bit. What is Texas style barbecue? What is it?
That is a very, very good question. There are many definitions out there. Mine is cooking with 100% wood
Hmm.
without the intervention of gas or electricity,
Okay.
high quality meats, low and slow,
Hmm.
and seasoned mainly salt and pepper.
Okay. That's it. So no
That's like,
mopping, no sauces,
no,
nothing.
no,
It's
that's
all
on
about
the
the smoke.
side. It's optional always, but we're pursuing this highly seasoned, barky textures, and overall also woods that are Texas related. Either oak, mesquite,
Okay.
or oak has so many varieties. We use white oak in here. It's what we have available. But I will never probably use applewood for Texas style barbecue.
Okay.
You know, there are
Just
some
because
some
of the
signatures in there.
just
Yeah,
because of the flavor it would
exactly,
impart.
exactly.
So how did you expand? Which came first? The expansion of like trying different products like chicken, and did you go to pork? Like how did you expand the products? And then did you open a brick and mortar in El Salvador?
We didn't. We never did.
Okay.
We had like a catering service, and it would all be by orders. So
Okay.
we would fill out it would fill out a form, and we would deliver it all during the weekends.
Okay.
And then during the weekdays, we get our orders and deliver it during the weekend, and that was it for months. And once that person from the embassy realized that it was good product, he told the entire
Everybody.
embassy. I don't know how he did it. Maybe
Right.
they had like an intranet or something.
Right.
And then we started delivering to all these fancy houses in around the embassy.
It was
And we were
crazy.
getting
I
It was
bet it was
selling out.
really
Yeah.
crazy.
It
I mean,
was
you have
3
this-
briskets, but we were
yeah.
selling out.
It was crazy. I mean, you have this temperature controlled product,
Right.
and you're trying to access through these huge gated communities with armed guards
Oy.
who are asking for your documentation, exchanging, calling someone.
Right.
It was
And you're like,
surreal.
come on, man, let me in. I'm just delivering
Right. I'm just
brisket for
delivering
this.
brisket. Right. This
That
is
was part of the
before the
challenge.
days of Uber, right?
Yes,
Uber
it was
Eats.
way
Exactly.
before Uber Eats,
Yeah.
and it was way before reheating at home was something that became popular, because we would vacuum seal the meats because we knew how fast barbecue dries out.
Sure.
So we started vacuum sealing. The way that he brought
So
the
did
first
you
brisket
vacuum
home
seal it while it was hot?
while it
Well,
was
it was rested.
sliced.
Yeah, it
Resting.
was rested
Okay.
already. Yes.
We would
yes. So
slice
we
it.
would cook all night, and then let all the barbecue to go down to serving temperature,
Sure.
resting, fully rested, and then cutting, slicing, portioning, vacuum sealing, and dispatch.
Wow.
So it
was a lot of
cold.
work.
It was a lot of work, but it was fun, and it
Yeah.
was something new. It was different, and it just worked.
Okay, so then what brings you to the States? Because you moved here in 2018.
Yes, that was
Which was like not like it's not like the most welcoming time in DC history, like the United States history. It was
Yes.
not an easy time to come here.
No, it was not. It was during the Trump administration that we applied for our work visas,
Okay.
and we
But
were
with thinking that you're going to open up your own business?
yes, that was the whole plan.
And why DC of all the places?
Well, because of that shipping company, we had visited New York, we had visited LA, we had visited Texas, and we thought that this area, the DMV area, didn't have the barbecue that we could provide.
They didn't. I mean, that was a fact.
We literally looked at the map and said,
Right.
where can we go that we think this could
Yeah.
work?
And there are a few places, as you said.
Yeah, there's a few. But I don't know
And-
who's doing. I don't know if anybody is doing Texas.
Back then, they didn't have offset smokers.
Okay.
So we looked at it
For
and
the
we said,
layperson, explain offset smokers.
smokers that don't use electricity or gas, smokers that only use wood.
Okay.
Yes.
It takes a lot of knowledge to cook in those smokers.
Well, because to
Yes.
me, like smoking with just wood, without any help,
Mhm.
it's almost like sous vide. You're really like it's the same, or convection in some way, right? It's the same sort of concept.
And it's babysitting your
Right.
food for 12, 14 hours.
I mean, it's
Yes.
labor intensive.
It
you really
is.
got to understand how convection works in this gigantic 1,000 gallon barrel
Mhm.
to be able to pull out a good product. And offset smokers also relate to the way that this huge convection chamber doesn't have any heating elements inside.
Right.
because you can call it a Texas style barbecue, but you're still using gas or electricity assisted rotisserie style elements in which you will switch or automate your temperature,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're still low and slow cooking, you're still using some wood, but it's assisted by these heating elements. And that's
Okay.
okay, that's fine. It's just that we were unable to find a 100% handcrafted, no gas, no electricity barbecue in the area back in the day.
We
Sure.
wanted, the original plan was to find a place where we would be able to put my family's restaurant industry franchise, and at the same time Fernando, who was not involved in that, could
Right.
have his barbecue.
Okay.
So we were going to do both. But like you said, in 2018, things were looking a little complicated towards immigration here in the
Sure.
States. So when our immigration attorney realized and figured out the way to go, she said, you have to prove to the government, to this current administration, that whatever you're going to do is going to work, and it's going to work fast, because we don't have much time. And
Well, that's not an easy
no, it is
guarantee. My
not.
God.
And my family's restaurant franchise was going to take a while, because franchises, the first one is very hard to establish.
But so you were going to open the first franchise
Here.
in hopes of selling more franchises.
That was
Yes,
the hope
that
of
was
it.
the goal.
Yes,
Okay.
that was the goal. So we pivoted and said, let's open a small stand at the farmer's market first for barbecue, because that will let us have some kind of income.
Sure.
Because we weren't going to
Right.
burn through cash. What cash? I mean,
Right.
we had to do something in order for us to survive. We had a daughter. So the Thursday after Thanksgiving in 2018, we opened that stand
Mhm.
at the farmer's market in Riverdale Park for barbecue. And that was it. We just never looked back. My family's restaurant business was put on pause because the other business really
Was
took
taking off.
Exactly.
Was that a surprise for you? I mean, going to a farmer's market. I mean, just culturally. Do you know what I mean? Going
Right.
to Riverdale Park, and
Mm,
it's just such a. It sounds like a unique experience given what you were coming from in El Salvador.
right. When we were ready to open at the farmers market in Riverdale Park, we already traveled and experiment and prototype and research a lot throughout Texas
Okay.
with Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
And by looking at the reaction of the different communities in Texas regarding what happens when a barbecue joint opens in that community, we were hopeful.
Okay.
We were hopeful, and we were not wrong. There's something special about barbecue. I think there's something special about fire.
Mm-hmm.
If we light up a fire right here, chances are we're going to have a lot of people gathering around us.
Well,
Like
there's
in no
the.
time, so-
Listen, we're sitting in a restaurant right
Yeah.
now. There is a fire over there. We
Yeah.
can all hear it,
Yes.
and every time they throw something on that grill, we can smell it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it engages your entire senses.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally. So we were kind of expecting that,
Okay.
but it definitely.
Now, did you bring your smoker to the farmer's market?
No,
No.
we
No.
were cooking. So simultaneously, we were exploring a small pizza shop that was pretty close to the farmers market,
Okay.
and it had a dining space next to it. And
The landlord actually approached us and
Exactly.
said, this would be a great space for your future restaurant, because you're not going to stay at the farmer's market forever. And we were
Exactly.
like, okay, thank you very much for your suggestion. Let's go check that out.
Right.
And it actually ended up being a really good space. It had a lot of storage. It had parking. It had a lot of the. It
Because I
checked a
assume
lot.
the smoker has to be
Yes.
outside.
It
it
had
has
space outside.
space
yes.
for the smokehouse, to build out the smokehouse.
Right.
So that's where we stationed our first 500-gallon smoker from
Wow.
Meadow Creek, coming from Pennsylvania. We started cooking there, and we will serve across the train tracks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the landlord was very adamant that the pizza shop had to be part of the deal.
Okay.
He wanted his daughter to retire, and that's what she did. So she sold the pizza place to us, let us have the whole space for us, and that's where we are right now. We
Right.
closed the pizza shop because that was not the
No.
purpose of it all.
Obviously.
And now the whole space, it's 250 Barbecue in Riverdale Park.
Okay.
It was right across where we started from the train tracks.
So that whole space is there.
Yes.
And then you opened up a stall in Union Market.
Yes.
Okay. No, so when you opened up the Riverdale space, or was it which one opened up in 2020?
That one.
The
April
dining
2020.
space of, yes, that one.
So in the middle of the pandemic. But
Right.
honestly, even though that was tough, I feel like you're already built for what the pandemic needed because you were already doing delivery. Like you were already in El Salvador
Yes.
getting the food to people.
Vacuum sealed.
Vacuum sealed
it's
and
funny.
needed, right?
It's so interesting how life prepares you for certain things
Right.
later in your life. Vacuum sealing, delivering, pivoting, and having Debbie so knowledgeable about the industry
Mhm.
that was able to pretty much change the whole business model overnight.
Isn't that amazing?
Totally.
So as you guys are expanding, can we talk about the menu a little bit? Is that all you? Is that all you? Is it a combination of things? Because as I told you when I saw you, when Debbie came on Foodie and the Beast, I had the smoked feta. And it's a beautiful, beautiful cheese. Like it's transcendent. It's totally different from what you would think of any feta. I'm sort of curious, like how you guys are coming up with what's on there. You're making your own sauces, so there's all these things now that are layering on top. So I'm kind of curious how that menu growth is happening for you.
I think the meat is all you. I have absolutely nothing to say or to contribute to the meats because
Okay.
it takes a lot of engineering in his mind to see how and how long and where in the smoker is this protein going to go
Sure.
to cook its best possibility. But with the sides, because we are both Salvadorian, we both come from El Salvador, we haven't been born here, we started cooking things that we were familiar with. So the fried plantains,
Which are
that was
delicious,
something
right?
very natural for us.
Mhm.
Or our beans, the brisket beans. There's red Central American beans with brisket, and we have never tried to be something that we're not. Our menu reflects who we are,
Mhm.
and I think that's what makes us. I don't want to say different, but it catches people's eye when they see the menu. They're like, "Why on earth would you sell caramelized pineapple on a barbecue place?" Because that is our dessert. Pineapple on the grill with honey. That would be a dessert in Central America, in any country. And it's just natural. So that's how we started including some of our own recipes or family recipes into the menu and perfectioning them. Because
Sure.
it's different when you cook at home than when you cook at the restaurant.
Of course.
But people didn't at the beginning understand that. They demanded their potato salad and their fries and
Because they're like, it's Texas.
Yes.
It's American.
yes.
Right. But sometimes
Get us something more American.
you don't have to give the people what they want. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes they need to be introduced to other
We
things.
compromise. Nikki.
Agreed.
On our menu, half of the menu says traditional sides, and then you can find the coleslaw and the potato salad
Okay.
and sweet potato mash. And
You're
other.
nicer than I am. I'd be like, no.
Go
This is
somewhere
what I
else.
want. Right.
On the other side, we have heritage sides. And then they will see the tajin green beans, and they will see my beans, and then the other side that we
And so
deem
now
heritage.
that you're here, what are you seeing? Are you seeing like a 50-50? I'm sort of curious. Like once people see it like that, are they like, oh, I should have this?
That's a very good question.
I think people choose one of each side. They want to try.
50-50. Yeah, they're more open now.
They're more
It
open
was very
now.
challenging
Yes.
when we opened,
Mm.
and a lot of one-star reviews about, oh, they don't have collard greens.
Yes.
I love collard greens. It's
right.
just something that I don't feel mine
Right.
or my own.
We don't want to pretend something that we're not.
No, and I really appreciate that. And I think sharing that as part of your story of why you're not serving them,
Mhm.
you know, is actually a really good conversation topic with your consumer. You know, like
Absolutely.
I know you want those collard greens, but I can't make your grandmother's collard greens.
And we
Exactly.
can't.
You know,
Exactly.
and then you're going to be really disappointed.
I literally had to look in Google to see what are collard greens because I had no idea
of
what
course,
they
why?
are.
How would you? Right. Of course.
So
Totally makes
we
sense.
were not going to pretend to cook things that we're not experts on.
But then
There's
I,
so many great places here in DC where you can find great collard.
Sure.
yeah,
You just
totally.
don't go to the 50.
Right.
Totally. And then something happened because we at the same time we were prototyping and developing our barbecue pupusas,
Yes.
which is stuffed with brisket pulled pork. I mix with 3 cheeses
I mean,
and
sounds terrible.
salsa, coleslaw, curtido. They're amazing. And at the same time, we were serving pupusas on a Sunday, bringing our own tropical flavors into the menu. And the first Washington Post list towards the end of 2020 came out. And it turns out it said 250 is American, 250 is Latin American. It's hands down the best smokehouse in the area. Tim
Wow.
Carmen, Washington Post, November 2020.
Was that
like,
life changing?
oh
It
man,
was.
what's
I
going
bet.
on? I
It
was picking
was.
brisket. I was loading briskets on my van.
It was
Debbie called me,
life-changing.
and then she said, "We're number one. We're number one." And I was, what are you talking about? And she explained to me, and I think from that point, people who will come to the restaurant, they had a more open mind on what to expect.
Well, I think that's my point, right? So if a person doesn't know your story, but they go in and they can't just get it from the menu, they're going to ask the questions. Where's what I'm used to when I have barbecue? But now, if Tim or somebody else, Gabe wrote a great story about you guys when you
Yes,
first
he did.
opened too. Somebody else can share your story, and then people are like, oh, so I could have this experience,
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
an experience,
It
absolutely.
was challenging, and I think even amongst editors, food critics, and even the most famous barbecue editor in the country, Daniel Vaughn, I've seen that switch when it comes to respecting the gastronomic diversity that is reflected now, that is now being reflected in Texas style barbecue. You can call it Texas style barbecue with Egyptian or Armenian or Laotian or
Right.
Salvadorian influences,
Well, that's
and
kind
it's
of
still inspiring Texas style barbecue.
right. I mean, that was kind of my point in the
Yeah.
beginning of the show, that around the world, there's all sorts of different barbecue or grilling. Everybody does it differently, but it doesn't mean that you can't be influenced or inspired or turned on by other processes, even if it's not traditionally to what you do.
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that the beauty of food?
Isn't
right?
that the beauty of
100%.
America?
Yes, and
100%.
America.
I
Yes.
love that. I love that in their story, people can see somehow themselves. They can see people have approached me and said, I am so proud of you. Women speaking in Spanish to me because when I came to this country, I started at a restaurant. I started washing dishes. And I always wanted to put my own restaurant. And now I do, and now I have it. Why don't you come to my pupuseria, something like that?
I love that.
I love that too. I think it's
It's one
very
of the
American.
best. I think it's also one of the, to me, talking about the restaurant industry as a participant in it and a lover of it. I can't tell you how many stories I hear of people who either grow up with nothing, don't have an education, or immigrated here, whatever it is, started as a dishwasher. You always sort of hear that story, and now they own 10 restaurants. Like, that's the beauty of the restaurant industry. Your grandmother, right? I mean, your grandmother had a second grade education, not even in the United States. I mean, she's in El Salvador, and look at not only the success that she had, but the generational wealth she was able to pass on to her family. I mean, it is amazing what the industry can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's incredible. Okay, so before we wrap up, you guys have a new place coming. Talk to me about it.
Pretty.
Where
It's so
is it?
pretty.
I know it's in Mount Vernon, but where and how big and what are we talking about? And when?
This is downtown DC,
Yeah.
pretty much. This is on 4th and K Street. It's a blossoming for restaurants area, I think. It's pretty accessible.
4th and K.
4th and
Fourth
So
and
Sixth.
City
K.
Vista?
City Vista, right in front of City Vista.
Okay.
Yes, right in
All
front.
right.
Mount Vernon Triangle.
Great
Right
area.
next
Madison is
to
very welcoming.
a big joint.
Oh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, you have a bake joint, you have
You got
Bosques and
Mandu across the
Poets,
street.
Mandu,
Yeah.
De Leña.
Ottoman Tavern around the corner. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and then what's Stellina's down. I mean, that's
Stellina's
like a
in-
whole little restaurant
Yes.
mecca.
It is very
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
It's It's a second generation restaurant, so everything is pretty much ready
Okay.
to go.
But now, can you smoke there?
We
No.
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 No,
Okay.
no. We are going to transport all our proteins from Riverdale Park as of
Okay.
right now, and we'll see what happens later. In the meantime, we have expanded our smokehouse. We have 4 1,000-gallon smokers,
Wow.
a brand new walk-in. It might not be interesting information, but I love our new walk-in. It's the
Well,
place. It's
sure
beautiful.
I'm sure the walk-in is a huge investment. I mean, it's like a diamond ring,
Yes.
right?
For a
Yes,
family-owned
it is.
restaurant, it's a huge investment for sure.
Yes, I have no doubt.
And
it's good.
we all. It's 80. How many seats?
82.
82
Okay.
seats.
Outdoor seating?
We
Outdoor
have outdoor
seating too,
seating.
yes.
Wow.
Sign is up. We're
Okay.
waiting for a few inspections.
So what do we think? Ish.
January, mid-January. We're aiming for
Mid-January, hopefully.
Wow, won't that be exciting?
And it's going to be in the middle of winter, but that's okay because there's
Yeah.
plenty of indoor seating and
Yeah, and people want barbecue year round.
year round.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, I mean, we're cooking 18 minutes away from one location to the other.
Mm-hmm.
We're all familiar, I think, with the commissary kitchen concept.
Mm-hmm.
This is a commissary smokehouse, pretty much.
I mean,
Okay, you cook everything, and especially at 4 a.m. on a 6-hour time frame that the brisket takes to rest.
sure.
What difference 18 minutes
doesn't make
makes?
any
So
difference.
this comes after a long,
So
thoughtful process and prototyping.
what I'm hearing
and
from
all.
you is that do you think people have a problem if it's not cooked on premise?
Not necessarily.
I don't think they
it's just,
do.
Yeah,
I really don't.
yeah. it's-
Maybe if people want to see the smokehouse, they should go to Riverdale Park.
Yeah.
Okay,
As of
that
right
makes
now,
sense.
if they want to
So
have
you'll
that experience.
keep Riverdale Park,
Oh, yeah.
obviously.
That's the OG.
And-
yeah.
But will you maintain Union Market, or is
No.
that wrapping up?
Wrapping up January 1st.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then hopefully mid-January,
Mhm.
the new space.
Yes.
We're
Okay.
also very
Yes.
proud that when we are able to open DC, some of our staff have been promoted to the head chef at
Isn't that
DC
exciting?
Yeah.
or the branch manager.
growing.
People that have been working for us for 2 or 3 years have been promoted. They're all very excited. They're all about the brand. It's all like it's very common to say this, but we are like a family in the sense that we all grew up through the pandemic. We grew up together.
Well, you
From
started
scratch.
this business
Mhm.
together.
Yes,
you know?
yes, we
Like some of our employees that were laid off during the pandemic,
Sure.
sadly, they came to us. They
Mhm.
stayed.
Mm.
They were being called from former employees, and they never went back. They're 4 years with us now.
It's
They're
terrific.
pretty happy, and we're all happy to have them too.
One of them is about to finish her 4th year in college as an accountant.
Oh,
And I think that's one of the things that I'm also very proud of, that we are able to have some of the students that when they finished in 2020, the high school, they
mhm.
wanted a job, but they couldn't find one.
Sure.
They started working at the restaurant, and we pushed them to continue in college.
So smart.
Yeah.
And now they're about to finish college, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
all because
amazing.
they've been working part-time with us. And I think that's also part of the restaurant industry.
Mhm.
It's a business or a model that allows people to work and study or work and take care of their children
Sure.
because of the hours.
Yes.
So I like that.
I like that too. I think it's amazing. Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming here today and sharing your story with me, because it's an incredible story.
Thank you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
very excited for the new space to open. Can you tell everybody where they can find you, please, online, on Instagram?
Instagram, 250 BBQ.
250 Texas BBQ, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Our website, 250bbq.com.
Oh, you didn't tell me. What does 250 stand for?
It's our target temperature. We cook at the smoker.
Oh,
Fahrenheit
Low and
degrees.
slow.
250. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you
that
think
makes
about
so
it,
much
you can
sense.
bake something at 400 degrees in half an hour.
Right,
Imagine cooking something low and slow at 250 for 14 hours.
right.
That's remarkable.
That's what we're all about.
I love it. Low and slow.
Thank you,
Okay,
Nikki, for
great.
having us.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having
It's
us.
been a
Just
pleasure.
hold on one sec. I'm going to wrap it up. So, thank you for joining me today on this current issue of Industry Night at the gorgeous The Point in downtown DC at Buzzards Point. You got all the info now about 250 Barbecue. Check them out. Check out their Insta feed. Definitely go, if you have not been, and get the feta. I mean, obviously, you should get the brisket, but I'm partial to the feta. And thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget, any questions that you have, You can DM me or leave questions on the YouTube page or on Instagram. Any way you want to get in touch with me, please do. Don't forget to subscribe to all my different channels on Insta and on YouTube. Follow me at NYCCINELLIS on all the things. And thanks so much for joining me today. Have a delicious week.
Produced by Heartcast Media.